Good evening. Am I heard?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. I had a lot of trouble getting in. My computer was, Microsoft must have pushed something through last night. It was horrible trying to get in. Anyway. This is the April 20 virtual meeting of the Meridian Township Board. We're virtual because we're still under order of emergency, both at the county and at the township level. And I will now call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we now need our roll call, and at the time of the roll call, the board members, please announce where you are, where you are presently located as part of the meeting.
Treasurer DeShane.
Present and calling in from Meridian Township.
Trustee Jackson. I don't see her. Okay.
I do not see her on the call either, ma'am.
Thank you, Stephen. Trustee Afsemer.
Present and attending virtually from the city of Lansing.
Trustee Sunland.
Present, and I'm attending virtually from my home at 2318 Barnsbury Road, East Lansing.
All right, trustee Wazinski,
Present, attending virtually from Meridian Township.
supervisor Stika,
I am present, attending from Meridian Township, my home here in Meridian Township.
and clerk Guthrie is present, attending from Meridian Township. 6 board members present.
Thank you. And we will now go on to presentations. And our first one is the Projects for Assistance in Transition from the Homelessness, or PATH as it is known. And I believe we have someone here who's going to speak on that behalf.
Yep, that's
Mr.
me.
Taylor.
I'm Edwin Taylor. I'm with Housing Services Mid-Michigan, here for PATH presentation. So PATH stands for Projects for Assistance and Transition from Homelessness, or what we like to call it short is the Homeless Street Outreach Team. Katie, my partner, and I, we go throughout the community looking for individuals and families who are homeless. And we cover the Tri-County area, which is Clinton, Eaton, and Ingham counties. Currently, it's just 3 of us. We are hiring more people because people have left. So when we find individuals, we link them up with a lead agency, which in Ingham County, that is Holy Cross. They are the HARA. In addition to linking them up with the Holy Cross for getting rehoused, we link them up with other resources that they may need, such as DHHS for food stamps and medical, community mental health for mental health services or rehab services. We get them linked up with Disability Network, Capital Area, and any other agencies or services that they may need. We do go in your community and have found several people sleeping in their cars in various locations. We like to partner up with as many people as possible, such as the local government officials, police department, fire department, local businesses, citizens, pretty much anyone that we can link up with. So that way we can find individuals or families, get them linked with the proper services, and help them get rehoused as quickly as possible. That's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. My coworker Katie did stop at the police department and dropped off our trifolds, which is a waterproof resource card with our phone numbers on them. So that way you guys have those as well to give out to folks that you may interact with. Any questions?
What are you looking for from the township and its residents in terms of assistance?
Yeah, so we've been doing presentations to different city, local governments, just to let you guys know who we are. If you come across individuals or families who are homeless, you can just give us a call. We do partner up with CATA and the city of East Lansing and city of Lansing. And we're just trying to expand our knowledge base of local governments and police departments and all that. So that way you guys understand who we are, what we do. So that way if you come across those who are homeless, you can have a resource to access.
Any board members have any questions? Yes, Treasurer DeShane.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, thank you for your good work and bringing this message to Meridian Township. While homelessness is harder to see in suburban areas, it does exist. We just don't have people sleeping under the bridges and in downtown buildings the way you do in more urban areas. But all the statistics and all the studies show it does exist in suburban areas as well. I wonder if you can share any data with us about homelessness amongst veterans. Do you see a correlation between the homeless and veterans?
So yeah, we do come across veterans. It's not a lot, but when we do partner with Volunteers of America, for their SSVF program and the Veterans Affairs. So that way we can work together on getting veterans necessary services that they may need through those programs. We work really well with them, but we don't come across a lot of them, but once in a while.
Well, thank you again for your good work.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions for Mr. Taylor? Yes, Courtney Wazinski, please.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, I agree. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for all your good work. Not being terribly familiar with maybe signs and or how to approach a subject if in fact we know or hear about somebody that may be homeless. Is there maybe some tips you could give us that would be appropriate in our approach and or what we could give our other residents? And would we call, or would it be more appropriate for us to give the information to that particular person and or family to call you?
So anyone can give us a call. My number, I can put in the chat if you guys have one. But things to look out for. In Meridian Township, we have come across a lot of people sleeping in their vehicles. So if there's clothes, sleeping bags, or blankets, pillows, a lot of things in their back seats, that's a sure sign of them sleeping in their vehicles. Cars parked way out in the parking lots, that are filled with things, that's a sure sign. That's what we've been coming across of. So.
In that regard, do you work with our police department at all?
We would love to work with your guys' police department. I know a year ago we had contact with them about doing a presentation to them, and then COVID hit and everything got shut down. So
Our Chief Plaga is on here. Chief, do you have any questions you want to ask Mr. Taylor or anything?
No, we just appreciate what Mr. Taylor does and the fact that we have the information now on how to reach him if we do locate somebody who needs those services. That's an important piece for us. And to Trustee Wazinski's comments, a lot of times if you have concerns about approaching somebody or concerns that somebody is homeless, it's appropriate to call the police department and ask us to make that contact and see if they need assistance. We have training in how to deal with people in crisis. And so it's that way it's a safer, I think it can be a safer interaction than maybe just a citizen approaching somebody who's homeless or in need of assistance.
I would imagine the homeless might also be a little more concerned about some citizen walking up to them as against someone who has authority and might have their interest at heart. You might mention that phone number. We are broadcast on our own home TV system, and there are people that tune into this meeting. So you might want to say that phone number, Mr. Taylor.
okay. My number is 989-303-8517. And my coworker Katie's phone number is 517-331-0756.
Thank you. Any final comments? Mr. Taylor?
Nope, that's all I have. Thank you very much for allowing me to present what we do and who we are. So thank you again.
Thank you, and thank you for coming forth, and thanks for everything you do. Our next presentation is about our deer management program. We have a report from this last 2021 deer season, and I believe would that be you, Luann, or someone else?
Yes, it's me.
Director Maisner, please.
Okay, thank you Supervisor Stika and board. I am here together with Police Chief Ken Plaga to present a summary of the 2020 Deer Management Archery Program and the 2021 Police Deer Call, and to celebrate the success of the partnership between Meridian Township, Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, and our resident volunteer hunters. We do have some people joining us here today, a number of people. We have our friends with Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger President CJ Merriman, and our local contacts, Dean Hall and Neil Easterbrook. We have Chad Fedewa, who's a wildlife biologist from the DNR, who's been a part of our program. We have township staff, Mike Ellis from our DPW Water Department. Jane Greenway is our Parks and Land Management Coordinator. Emma Campbell is our Stewardship Coordinator. And then also we have invited all of our 75 hunters. And so I do believe that they are tuning in or a part of this webinar for the meeting today. So, and then also, last but certainly not least, we have State Representative Julie Brixey, who's here to make a presentation with a certificate of appreciation to Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger. Our deer management archery program started in 2011 as a directive from the Township Board. And I would like to recognize Jane Greenway for the development of this grassroots community program that has been very successful over the years. And she put that together in consultation with the DNR. And as you know, this program utilizes volunteer archery hunters who are also residents in our community. And what started out as a pilot program with 7 properties and 25 hunters has grown to 40 properties and 75 hunters, as well as the addition of the extended call conducted by our police department. We have one dominating theme of this program, and that is safety. All of our parks and land preserves included in this program have remained open and available to the public during each season. Our hunters participate in an orientation program each year at Demmer Center, where we cover program rules, expectations, and goals, followed by a proficiency test. Assignments and locations for tree stands are carefully selected utilizing GPS coordinates, and all hunters check in and out with us daily and communicate with us and with each other through a closed Facebook group for accountability. Most of our hunters have been with us and been part of this program from the beginning, and they take great pride in being a part of it. And many of them are joining us on this Zoom call today. As car deer accidents remain high and residents' complaints constant, Manager Walsh and the Township Board challenged us to reach 300 deer this year. The best year of our program was in 2014 with 150 deer. Most years we never broke 100, and 300 seemed like a very lofty goal. But hats off to our volunteer hunters as they called an all-time high 176 deer from October 1st to January 1st. And then our police department engaged in an extended call and removed an additional 150 deer. All of this resulted in over 7,000 pounds of venison being donated to 14 local food banks. How did we reach 327 deer? There are many people to recognize and thank. First of all, our 75 volunteer hunters who have donated their time and energy to participate in this program and who feel an ownership and responsibility to this program as well as to our community. Chad Fedewa and Chad Stewart from the DNR Wildlife Division, who serve as advisors and advocates for this program. To Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger, who have been financial partners in funding our deer processing fees since 2011. Because of our high call numbers this year, the total processing fees paid for this program were $11,084. And Jane Greenway and Emma Campbell from my staff who managed and administered the day-to-day operations and communications. And then also Mike Ellis, who's a utility worker in our water department, has participated as a hunter in this program from the beginning and brings insight and knowledge to our deer management administrative team this year. Mike was the go-getter and the problem solver to help our hunters call more deer. He participated in the cooler purchase, became the cooler cleaner, delivered the deer twice a week to the processor, and then also delivered venison to the food banks. When we realized we had much more venison than Okemos and Hazlet food banks could handle, he reached out to other food banks and churches to deliver it to in the greater Lansing area. This became very personal for him as he witnessed firsthand the need that so many people have in the greater Lansing area. And he built relationships with many of the churches and the ministers. 4 other public works staff who volunteered to help field dress the deer that were called by the police department in the early morning hours in January, February, and March. And as you know, extremely cold temperatures. Chad Hauk, who has been a hunter in our program, Destin Kaufman, Dan Enman, and Don Kusan. As I said in the beginning, tonight is a celebration of this collaborative effort. And in closing, before I turn this over to Chief Plaga, because he can talk about his portion of the program, this program is much more than managing the deer overpopulation. It has become a program where friendships are developed, where volunteerism has created a greater connection to our community, where greater coordination and teamwork between township departments and staff were strengthened. Don't get me wrong, this was a lot of work, but aside from the deer call, a lot of positive relationships were developed as well. And at this time, I would like to turn this over to Chief Plaga to talk about the police deer call. Thank you.
Chief?
Thanks, Luann. So this is a new experience for our police department. We did experience some with the U.S. Department of Agriculture when chronic wasting disease was first discovered in the township. Over a period of time, and once the township had decided that they were going to try to remove up to 300 deer, our officers decided that they would be able to conduct the call, and we worked together with the Parks Department and the Michigan DNR to obtain the permit for the call. We purchased specialized equipment. Without Sergeant Andrew McCready and Sergeant Jason Clements, both of those sergeants really were the lead coordinators here between the Parks Department, the DNR, and scheduling officers to conduct the call. One of the things that I find remarkable is we did not pay any overtime costs for our officers to go out and conduct the call. They did that by flexing their work schedules, and really some of them even donated their own personal time to come in on those cold nights to work this assignment. Several of the officers found it very rewarding. They appreciated the opportunity to do something that's different than midnight shift law enforcement on all occasions. And they were really impressed with the cooperation with the Parks Department. And when numbers started coming in about the amount of venison donated to food banks, they really were, they took pride in their cooperation and work in this program. So we appreciate the Township Board for letting us do this. We did it safely, we did it effectively, and really with very few concerns from citizens.
Thank you. All right, this has been a wonderful, oh, Ms. Maisner, you have more to say?
Yeah, I would also like to thank Manager Walsh and the Township Board for allocating additional funds for us to be able to do some of the things that took us to the next step. And we really couldn't have done it without the support of the board and Manager Walsh. So thank you for that.
Great, thank you. This has been a wonderful program from the point of view of our goals here, which are to make it more safe here in the township in terms of accidents, to improve the situation in terms of people's landscaping, et cetera, and interference by deer in their yards, but also in a sense to improve things for the deer because they no longer have their natural predators, keeping their population at the level that it needs to be for them to be able to stay healthy as well. And so a lot of things happening here. And of course, then the big one, which is the meats that went to the people who need food. And that's just a wonderful program that this township can be very proud of. And I think we can be extremely proud of every single hunter, all the volunteer hunters, the marksmen from the police department, everyone who participated. It's a great program, and it's grown and become better, and truly thankful to everyone. Other board, well, before I get to other board members, I know that our state representative, our former treasurer here in the township, Julie Brixey, is with us because she has something special to say about this program as well. I was warned ahead of time that she's very much interested in the positive outcomes of this program and is here with us tonight. Representative.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Stika, for having me. I'm Julie Brixey, 2294 Hamilton Road, and I can't tell you how delighted I am to be here before you all tonight with a special tribute that we have ordered up for the Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger. So, you know, in my time on the board, this deer management program was instituted while I was on the board. And in the early years, there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of concern about how safe it would be and what would the impacts be. And the program has just really turned out to be so successful. As I look at other communities around the state grappling with deer overpopulation problems and the associated concerns, you know, the car collisions, the vegetation problems, the disease spread, but also the impact in Meridian on deer browsing and the lack of forestry regeneration is really a huge environmental imbalance that needed to be corrected. And so I am just delighted to be here, and I want to say a special thank you to President CJ Merriman and our Meridian's local contacts, Dean Hall and Neil Easterbrook. So I won't read this whole thing, but basically it says that it's with deep admiration for the dedication, planning, and commitment by the Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger that we wish to recognize their efforts to process the 326 deer culled during the 2021 deer management program. So to read the numbers and to see that there's 60,000 pounds donated, that is over 30 tons. That's so amazing, especially in these times of need. I know that we hear from food banks all the time here at the state that meat is something that's really important to be able to provide to food banks. So really, really want to thank everybody for all of their efforts, and we will be sending copies of these to the township for distribution that will be signed by the governor, as well as Senator Hertel and myself. I have another tribute that is a little bit of a surprise, and that one is for the township, for their deer management program. Luann and Jane and the folks at the water department and Ken. I mean, we've been talking, we talked about the idea of the police participating in this, and I'm just really happy that we were able to, that you guys were able to do that. I think you all know that there's someone in my household who's really, really very excited about the results of the deer management program. And I can tell you, with my neighborhood being one of the highest neighborhoods with high population, it's really obvious and visible that there's been a significant change. And so we're looking forward to forest regeneration in our land preserves, and just really want to thank you so much for all your efforts and all the good that this program does. Thank you so much.
For those who don't know, the other half of the Brixey household, her husband Randy Schetzel is a farmer at heart, and you can drive past their property anytime during the growing season and see how well he does with that. And we really appreciate he as a citizen, and he is extremely supportive, obviously, of this program. I know that. Thank you, Representative. You have done a great job with regard to this program when you were still here at the township, and we appreciate you honoring it now that you're there at the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor.
Anyone else have anything they want to bring up or say? Yes, Treasurer.
Well, from the treasurer point of view, this has also been a tremendous savings for the township. Ann Arbor recently canceled their program because it was going to cost them almost $1 million over 5 years to take out fewer deers than our deer hunters voluntarily were taken out. So $200,000 a year was costing them about $2,000 a deer. So this has been a great bargain for the township as well. It's another example of how value is added to our township by the great amount of volunteer effort and time and talent that our in this case, volunteer hunters contribute. So thank you very much. You've also helped the bottom line quite a bit.
The Meridian Township is a prime community because we're pathfinders and trendsetters. And I think, Ms. Misner, you could probably indicate a lot of other communities come to us wanting to know about their programs because they want to go into them and want to hear about how ours works. I assume that that's been your experience.
Yes, actually, quite a bit. We get quite a few requests. In fact, I believe Jane and Emma both communicated and participated in a meeting with the city of Southfield just a week ago. And I know I presented actually to Manager Walsh's managers group from the mid-Michigan area regarding the deer management program. And so we do have communities contacting us regularly to help them and help guide them with our program. And like I said, Jane Greenway is one who put this together and has been a leader in our state with rural type deer management programs and communities.
Thank you. And I don't think there's any board members left anymore that were there at the beginnings, but certainly our former treasurer was, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Brixey. All right. Oh, Mr. Opsimer. Yes, sir.
Yes, just briefly, I wanted to take a moment to thank Manager Walsh and the staff across all of the departments from Parks and Rec to Public Works and the Police Department for all of the late hours and also early hours that were put into this effort. You know, we had police officers working late nights to conduct the call, and then we had staff within Public Works working early mornings to prepare the deer for the processors. And, you know, for anyone who has visited some of our land preserves, which we are trying to reforest, such as our preserve up next to Tower Gardens, you know, we know that the deer population has caused great harm to our efforts to reforest those preserves, and hopefully these efforts will help regenerate the forestation and the vegetation in our preserves, as well as the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. All right, we're now ready to move on our agenda. And the next thing is citizens addressing agenda items and non-agenda items. The citizens who do call in or participate have 3 minutes. I will time that, and we ask them to be civil, to address the board as a whole, not any individual, and to talk about things that hopefully are on our agenda, although they can obviously go elsewhere. Mr. Geebies, do we have anybody that's calling in or that wants to speak?
We do have a caller, but I'll pause momentarily to remind the people in the attendee area that they can use the raise hand feature if they'd like to be put into the queue to speak this evening. And of course, the telephone number that they can call is 517-349-1232. And with that, I'll put the first caller through. You're on the air with the board. Please state your name and address for the public record.
Hi, this is Lynn Page, 3912 Raleigh Drive in Okemos. As you may know, residents of Meridian Township have initiated a petition referendum opposing recreational marijuana businesses in the township. In the last week alone, we have gathered over 700 signatures through our volunteer effort. Despite a technical issue with the petition language, volunteers remain committed to placing this issue on the ballot for Meridian Township voters to decide. Overwhelmingly, the voters endorsing this initiative have expressed shock and dismay that several board members are in favor of allowing recreational marijuana businesses in our community. We look forward to submitting the required documentation to the township clerk to ensure that any decision made on this issue represents the interests of our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Is there anyone else? Mr. Geebies?
I am seeing no other hands, and we have no other telephone calls at this time, sir.
Okay. Then we will go on to the manager's report.
Excuse me, Supervisor, I see a hand up for.
Oh, okay. Where was that?
Hello. It's Peter Glendenning from 2654 Linden Street, East Lansing. And I just wanted to briefly comment as one of the people who is privileged to serve the township and our neighbors and participate in a group that's become a large group of good friends, and thank Emma and Jane and Luann and everybody else who's been involved in the township in supporting the bow hunting program. It's really been transformed this year, There's a tremendous amount of energy that was initiated by some changes that were in the structure of the program, and the enthusiasm of the hunters, and the appreciation of people who live close to the areas that we hunt, for the not only for the relief that they feel for their gardens, but also for the good works. I think the concept of donation has really been ramped up tremendously this year. And I look forward very much to next year and years beyond that, as I know all of my brother and sister hunters do. And there are many of all types. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about it. We all feel a collective volunteer aspect and connection to the township that's been very gratifying. So thank you to the board for its continued support. Thank you to our brave police officers who not only go out and help with the cull, but very importantly, they are there for us when we're out hunting. If there are any incidents, we know that they're just a phone call away, and we really appreciate the support of the police department for this program as well. So thank you very much, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Glendenning. I see another citizen with his hand up, Matt DeLong. Start with your name and address, please, Matt, after you unmute.
Hi, I'm Matt DeLong. I live at 2192 Belding Court, and I've been a resident of Meridian Township for about 25 years. And I have the pleasure of having 2 doors down Ron Stike as a neighbor. So it's a pretty good neighbor, but he has some problems on football Saturdays with wrong signage. We have to talk about that. I've been part of the, I should say my wife Margaret and I have been part of the management program basically since its inception, and seen it grow from, as you said, from an experiment to a recognized successful program. And my purpose here today is just to thank the board for their foresight in putting this program in place and pushing it forward, and let you know that it is a great opportunity to volunteer when you can volunteer and do one of the things that you truly enjoy, which is spending time outdoors, and then having the ability to say, hey, I'm helping feed a whole bunch of people in the township. But I want to let you know, as last piece, that the meat from the township reaches far beyond the township. I can personally tell you that it reaches down to Columbus, Ohio, and Austin, Texas, when my daughters come home and shop in my freezer. So it goes quite a ways out there. But the backbone of this program is Jane Greenway and Emma Campbell and Luann Maisner. They are there every day on the front lines, dealing with the citizens who have concerns and issues with the program, whatever those might be. And it's always great to say everything is fantastic and it was working well. But the big thing is they're able to take people who are upset, concerned, sometimes a bit unhinged, and even when the answer is no, get them to understand what the program is about, and to tell them that when they if they have concerns beyond what they can handle, direct them to the board for the appropriate reaction. So I just want to say thank you to those people, and thank you as Peter said, looking forward to continuing participation in this program well into the future.
Supervisor Steiker, we have a Thomas Porter who's raised his hand.
Sorry about that, I was muted. Thank you, Mr. DeLong. I'll have to shop in your freezer myself.
Can't quite figure out my video part here, but I just wanted to say thank you to Jane and the company for our assistance with the.
Mr. Porter, you're now mute. I think, were you done?
Yeah, for a computer guy, it's just really tough to work on the phone, but I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to assist with the program. We were quite successful this year, and I'm glad that we were able to assist in helping to feed the hungry. Thank you for Representative Rick.
And I didn't hear, did you give us your address at the beginning? Because you were kind of cutting out.
My apologies, Thomas Porter, 1514 Downing Street.
Thank you. And thank you for those kind words. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Geeves, do you have anybody?
We have no other raised hands at this time, sir.
Okay, and I guess we're ready to move on then to the manager's report as I asked for. Manager Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Board. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I want to start by thanking everyone that was in the deer management program. Quite an enhanced, amplified deer call this year. Took a lot of effort, and I appreciate everyone that was involved with that. We're very excited. In the last 3 to 4 weeks, we've been recruiting for our community planning and development department for a new director. It's been a lot of work. As I noted to our staff today, there are over 30 openings in local government for anywhere from city manager to this sort of position in Michigan. If you go to the Michigan Municipal League site, it's the longest laundry list I've seen in my career for openings. So the recruiting is very difficult, but we found our next leader. And I want to start by thanking the committee that spent time on it. I know that we've completed our 3rd interview of our top candidate this morning. I want to thank our chair of our planning commissioner, Scott Henriksen, and planning commissioner, Mark Bloomer, John Heckerman, our chief building official, and Debbie Bazinski, our administrative assistant. They're in the department and they served on the committee. I want to make sure that there was buy-in from the department on our next leader. And then also, you remember last meeting, I asked for a volunteer from the board, and probably should have thought this myself, but with Trustee Jackson's vast experience on the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals, I think 16 or 17 years, she was an excellent fit to serve on the committee. And so we had a committee, and then of course, Director Tehoff served on the committee. There were 6 of committee members, and they interviewed the top 2 candidates, and we extended an offer this morning, and we expect to have an answer tomorrow. But we really very fortunate on where this process has ended up, and I'll have more information for the board at a later time. More good news: Buddy's Pizza has submitted their request for a building permit. They're going to be taking over, if all goes well, taking over the former Burger King property on Grand River. The survey that the board approved at the last meeting, the contract is ready to be signed, and I plan to do that tomorrow. Joe's on Jolly, which is on Jolly Road. They've had some issues with their property development, and we're meeting with them on Friday afternoon as we try to move forward with that. I want to publicly thank all our administrative professionals, all 18 of them. Tomorrow's Administrative Professional Day. Typically, we do something a little more than acknowledging them on a Zoom call, and we hope to be able to, Director Tehoff and I are putting our minds together on what we can do to celebrate in the era of COVID, but we'll come up with something. We're being challenged on our prevailing wage policy that we have, and we're working through that. I want to congratulate John Heckerman, our chief building official, who on the 14th of this month celebrated 24 years with the township. He's an instrumental part of our team. The next board meeting you have will be May 6th. It'll be on a Thursday night because of the election on the 4th that the clerk is overseeing. And one of the main issues on that agenda that we expect to be on that agenda is the rezoning of Jolly Road, where the Midwest Power business is located. And I know that you're familiar with that. I want to close, unless there are any questions, I want to close with an update on something that's important in our community, and that's the food pantries. I want to thank the clerk for taking this on, the supervisor for getting legislation passed quickly that we could have these food pantries right away, and for Director Kieselbach administering that and getting it moved quickly through his office. And I'd ask Mr. Perry at this time, I know there's an update on locating those food pantries, and I'd ask you just to update the board and the public on where we are with what started with the clerk, through the supervisor, through community planning, and now implementing. So, Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Manager Walsh. As you said, all projects take a lot of hands to get it finalized, and this is no different. So the two of those pantries have in place, one at the Okemos Library and one at the Hazlet Library. So those are in place. Volunteers should be stocking them shortly, and the community's obviously welcome to utilize that stuff. That was the intent of it. And we do have a third one, and we'll be working to find a good location for that. So if people have ideas, own some property, be interested in taking some ownership of that as far as location goes, please reach out to us. We'll get that third one sited.
Yeah, great teamwork on all fronts across the department. I also want to thank citizen Cecilia Kramer. She's been very active in making this happen, coming in and meeting with us. And if you know Cecilia, when she starts something, good things come to fruition. And I want to close, again, I always try to close on something very positive. And this occurred at our team meeting that we have on Monday, which seems like 4 days ago, but it was yesterday. Monday at 10 o'clock, we always have a staff meeting. And at this last meeting, the clerk was talking about how she's meeting with our Manager Perry's team to go around and look at the layout of all the buildings and how to enhance voters' experience at the buildings, and making sure that the parking is close to where actually the voting's at, making sure that people who are compromised in their ability to walk into the site are better situated or located. And I thought to myself, I've been here 8 years, I've never heard this kind of discussion before of the clerk's involvement of our polling locations and the layout and all of that. So I just wanted to publicly thank the clerk for that and her involvement in doing that. And we're going to have better elections because of it. So that's my report, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for the manager? Trustee Jackson.
Yes, I presume Mr. Walsh can answer this question for me. In the last presentation about the deer management program, there was a mention of food banks in Okemos and in Hazlet. I'm not specifically clear on where those are. Could you mention that relative to the addition of these food pantries in the township?
Sure, I would ask Director Maisner to update you on that, because I know that the food banks locally, as I understand it, I had nothing to do with this successful program. They filled up fast, and then we took them out, I think, to a 3-county area. Right. But anyway, Director Maisner.
Yeah, our two places here locally would be Okemos Community Church and Hazlet Community Church. And their freezers were small, and then we had quite the supply of venison, and then that's when we looked at reaching out to other food banks in the area. But we always made sure Okemos and Hazlet were filled first before we went elsewhere.
Great. I was just not familiar where they were specifically, and just wanted to clear that up publicly. Thank you.
Good question. All right. We now come to, unless there's anything else? Nope. Okay. Board member reports of activities and announcements. And before we do that, Ms. Jackson, could you, because you weren't here for the roll call, announce where you are presently at in terms of being at this virtual meeting?
Yes, I am in Okemos, Michigan, Meridian Township.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we now come to board member reports of activities and announcements. And who wants to go first? Trustee Opsimer, I see your hand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. For the board and for Chief Plaga and our police department, I just wanted to go over real briefly a piece of legislation that our township prosecutor, Mr. Harkness, actually reached out to Rep. Brixey about, and that bill is fixing an OWI issue that our department and many across the state had concerns with, just to update everyone. So Mr. Harkness contacted us back in February. There was a public act passed during lame duck of last year, and it provided that OWI offenses resulting in personal injury or property damage, officers could continue to make an arrest for those offenses. However, in the event of what we commonly refer to as a basic OWI, operating while intoxicated, the statute was requiring law enforcement to issue an appearance ticket and release the individual, which is not standard practice. Typically, law enforcement will detain the individual until they reach 0.02 or lower BAC. So when Mr. Harkness had contacted Rep. Brixey about this, we looked at, we first contacted the attorney who worked on the bill. within the Legislative Service Bureau, and we reached out to the Prosecuting Attorneys Association, the Police Chiefs Association, and the sheriffs. And it was revealed through those discussions that this was a drafting oversight and that there wasn't an intent to distinguish between these OWI offenses between personal injury and property damage and just an otherwise basic OWI. And that's important because we often see very high BAC levels and high levels of impairment on a basic OWI offense. You could have someone who is very impaired who falls into this category of a basic OWI, and under this change in state law that just went into effect on April 1st, our law enforcement would essentially have to release them if they couldn't show good cause for detaining them. And what most recently happened was the state police issuing guidance on this. So we had, Rep. Rixey had a bill up, and she actually had Mr. Harkness come and testify with her this morning. And that bill is going to be voted out next week. And it would simply take this back to prior to that Public Act passing last year and treating all OWI offenses and allowing law enforcement to provide for the public safety without having to give cause. And that the reason why giving cause became problematic is because many reasons that law enforcement might have are hypothetical, or they are reaching conclusions that aren't necessarily based in hard evidence or fact, and they would be very difficult to stand up in court, which was why Mr. Harkness was very concerned about this statute, and I'm certain he's spoken to Chief Plaga, so I just wanted to give the chief an update on that and just let everybody know about that issue. And that is all I have for my report.
Thank you, Trustee Osmer. Are there other board members? Yes, Trustee Wazinski.
Thank you. I do have a couple Environmental Commission board updates. We'll be hearing from our chair, John Sarver, a little bit later. But I did want to mention, and I mentioned this last board meeting, but the Environmental Commission did unanimously support the recommendation of 2 green infrastructure grants. One of them includes a project that is an outdoor learning lab classroom at Hazlet Middle School. And the other one is a pathway to discovery and/or nature trail at Montessori Radmore. For Hazlet Middle School, $3,000 were awarded for that project, for that outdoor learning lab. And for Montessori Radmore, there was 2 projects, and they were awarded almost $47.50 for their project. We did have a $1,000 pledge from Granger, and that leaves us about $3,000 in the budget for either opportunity for the existing 2 grantees to increase their budget if needed, and or if there's another project that may come about that we could help fund. That's really exciting. Those should get started right away. Their management plan will start May 1st. The other big thing to note is I know if you remember that we have 2 new commissioners on the Environmental Commission, and one of those commissioners has also been appointed to the Land Preservation, Kendra Grisashi. And she, just a little background, she's got a lot of experience in both environmental justice and social justice, as well as a passion for the environment all around. So really excited to appoint her both to the Environmental Commission and Land Pres. As a resident, we really are excited that and honored that we have residents that will commit so much. That's it.
Thank you. Any other board member reports? Treasurer.
Thank you, Supervisor. The township does have a wealth of long-term employees, and certainly in the treasurer's office, we benefit from one Marianne Group, who this week will celebrate 33 years of service, and much of that in utility billing and treasurer. And much of our success here in these departments is due to Marianne's hard work and dedication. I want to thank her publicly. She was one of the regional winners of the Archie Virtue Service Award that the manager instituted a few years back, and very well deserving for it. I did want to comment about these three things we heard about tonight's meeting to start off the meeting. They're really quite remarkable. One is the 2 food pantry closets that we're going to be opening up, and the third one soon to be announced. I know that a local business, I believe it's the Meridian Company, has donated much of the materials and the labor to that. Just a remarkable thing to pull that together so quickly. The second being the 75 deer hunters and our police culling 425 deer in the short period of time, which is a great public service. And then lastly, hearing from Ms. Page that 700 of our citizens have, if you will, weighed in on their opinion on our decision about recreational marijuana. We are really fortunate as a board. We've got a citizenry that's very engaged, well-informed, and generous. And every time we have these kinds of public meetings where we bring out things that are being done, I'm more moved by the generosity and kindness and goodness of our citizens. We are fortunate to serve them. Thank you very much.
Last call for board member reports. I don't see any others. Oh, I do, from the clerk. Yes.
Thank you, Supervisor Syka. I think it kind of blends in with a lot going on back here on my screen. You can't.
Your hand becomes part of your bookcase.
I had to be John Beanstra for a second and really put my hand up there. Thank you. I want to thank Manager Walsh for his kind comments about the food pantries, and really, you know, the thanks goes out to the Meridian Company for building the pantries, buying the materials, buying the food. And I want to thank, you know, so I thank them for what they did, and also thank Thomas Moore, the Hazlitt head librarian, because he met me over at the service center last week on a rainy day, and we divided up all that food, and it was a ton of food that the Meridian Company donated. I was shocked. I had no idea how much food. It took us over an hour to separate it for the 3 different pantries, and then we took over a set of it to the Hazlitt Library, and received a kind email from the cattle, I can't remember his name, Scott, the cattle head librarian for cattle, received a kind word from him about the pantries. So I think it really will serve our community well, and looking forward to see where the 3rd pantry will go. And also thank you, Frank, for your words about the polling locations. It's important that we think of all of our community members and their accessibility in these polling locations. And, you know, I want to thank the Okemos School District, since it's been the Okemos School District that I've been working with, because it is their school millage on these polling locations, not just where they're located, but where it is inside that location. So when we combine Precinct 17 and Precinct 15 at Kenowa, at the Kenowa Middle School gym, it's not just about being at Kenowa Middle School, it's about getting it out of the cafeteria that's super far away from the parking lot and moving it into the gym, and getting accessibility, temporary accessibility parking signs to put up closer to the gym so people can actually, so they don't have as far to walk. And the same thing with Hiawatha Elementary School. At Hiawatha, we're moving the parking lot for voters to the back of the lot, and the voting will take place inside the cafeteria. It is a much closer location when you park to get into there. And I could go on and on with every single school at Okemos and the time that the new facilities coordinator, Mark, has spent with me to walk these locations. And so I appreciate Mr. Perry's time, and I appreciate his staff's time in looking at these locations with me as well. And so if people don't know, and I should announce this because there is an election on May 4th, The polls do open at 7, so if people don't know, precinct 7 and precinct 15 are both at Kenowa Middle School. And so if you went to the Meridian Senior Center, you're going to be going to Kenowa Middle School. And then precinct 12 and precinct 10 are co-located at Wardcliff. So if you went to the Meridian Service Center, that location was smaller, not a ton of parking. That will be co-located at Wardcliff. I don't even know if they call it Wardcliff Elementary School anymore, so Wardcliff School. So just so people know that. And information was sent a long time ago, but we'll try to keep letting people know, and we will put signage out so that people know where to go.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ron. I'm sorry. I have one more thing. Attended the CRC meeting, and they are looking to write a letter to the board in support of broadband, and attended the Friends of Okemos Library meeting, and they are looking to hopefully have a book sale. They haven't had one for a long time. They're hoping to have one outdoors, and so I'm working with Luann on how that could work out with their group, maybe at the old farmers market or something like that. So just to give people a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one more call for board members. All right, we'll now move on to the approval of the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion? Treasurer DeShane.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second, Trustee Opsomer.
Support.
All right. All those in favor of the approving the agendas? Well, I guess we're going to have to do a roll call. Virtual meetings, sorry about that. Go ahead.
All right, Treasurer DeShane.
Yes.
Trustee Opsomer.
Yes.
Trustee Sunland.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Supervisor Stika.
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes, and Trustee Wazinski.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you all very much. So now we move on to the consent agenda. We have communications. We have minutes of the March 30 virtual regular joint board meeting. We have the bills. And then we have the Lake Lansing Advisory Committee reappointments. Same folks getting put back onto the Lake Lansing Advisory Committee. Can I have a motion? Trustee Wazinski.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Is there support?
Support.
Sunderland supports. Okay. Any need to change any of the minutes or anything? If not, we need a roll call. Ms. Guthrie?
Supervisor Stika.
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Opsomer.
Yes.
Trustee Sunland.
Yes.
Trustee Wazinski.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you all. No questions for attorney, no hearings. We now come to our action items, which is 12 under our agenda. And the first one, A, is the zoning amendment number 21010, Township Board. Amend the Code of Ordinances to require the Township Board approval of a special use permit for motor vehicle sales and service establishments and automobile dealerships in the C2 and C3 commercial zoning district areas. Introduction today. Trustee Opsomer.
Yes, I move to adopt a resolution approving zoning. I'm sorry, what was that?
I was calling your name. I think we have that delay situation again because of your location. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I move to adopt the resolution approving zoning amendment number 21010 to amend the Code of Ordinances to require Township Board approval of special use permits for motor vehicle sales and service establishments and automobile dealerships in C2 and C3 commercial zoning districts.
Supported by
Support.
Treasurer DeShane. All right. Trustee Osler, you want to tell us about this one more time?
Yes, I will just briefly go over this one more time. The most general impetus or intent of the zoning amendment change, which I thank Supervisor Stika again for putting this on the agenda with me back when we initiated this zoning ordinance change and worked with staff on it, is that auto dealerships are inherently similar to big box retailers in terms of the impervious footprint that they create through development. And while their showrooms tend to be smaller than a big box retailer and they don't trigger the 25,000 square feet, their parking and impervious area overall between the parking lot and the building is very similar to big box stores and any development that would trigger the 25,000 square feet or greater special use permit approval. And the board does have final approval over those. And of course, there is a long and sordid history with the 2008 amendment, which the Township Board initiated at that time, actually in a reactionary fashion to the Williams Auto Dealership rezoning request. I won't go into all of that history again. The only other main point that I would emphasize for the public and the board is that when we look at C3, which is currently a use by right for auto dealerships, and when we look at where our C3 parcels are, they are predominantly the mall area and the Meyer area, which we have now designated in the 2017 master plan as mixed core. That was a new future land use designation. And, you know, with that change in philosophy, you know, auto dealerships really do not fit into the vast majority of C3 parcels. There are some perhaps to the east, which is why we originally drafted this to leave certain options open, but to certainly increase the scrutiny of auto dealerships. And then of course we do have the LaFontaine example where they backed away after receiving Planning Commission approval for a special use permit and had clear cut the site, which is an issue that the township will have to deal with. So that is my overview, and I will turn it over to the board. Thank you.
Good overview. Thank you so much. I want to thank Mr. Kieselbach and Mr. Chapman for the explanation as to why the Ford dealership does in fact have a body shop. It's a non-conforming use, which is what I suspected at our last meeting. Okay. Anyone else want to speak on this? All right, then I think we're ready to vote on the introduction of this amendment to our ordinances. Ms. Guthrie?
Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
trustee Opsimer,
Yes.
trustee Sunland,
Yes.
trustee Wazinski,
Yes.
treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
clerk Guthrie votes yes, and supervisor Stika.
Yes. Passes 7-0. We'll see this back again for final adoption. Thank you very much, everyone. We now come to the resolution to celebrate Earth Day and Arbor Day. And I see we have a cover memo from Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry, you want to tell us about this before we get moving on it?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Supervisor Stika, members of the board. In short, the board and the residents of the township, you know, they take great pride in their concern and care of the environment. And April happens to be a month where there's two important days that deserve recognition. And one happens to be Earth Day, which is celebrated on April 22nd, and Arbor Day on April 30th, 2021. We just thought it appropriate that the board basically honor those holidays with this resolution.
Very good. I'm glad you caught that. Something that maybe I should have caught or one other board member. Thank you very
Actually,
much.
the credit goes to Brandy and Communications. She's like, hey, what about these holidays? So, yep.
Well, thank you, Brandy.
Yep.
Can we have a motion then? Treasurer.
Sure. I move to adopt resolution in celebration of Earth Day and Arbor Day 2021.
And that was seconded by Ms. Wozinski, I believe. All right. Any further comments, Mr. DeShane?
Sure. With Director Maisner still on the call, I heard there's some talk of expanding Love a Park Day to Love a Park Week or Love a Park Month. You want to tell us more what's going on with your fine staff and what they're doing to improve our parks?
Sure. Well, you know, you're the one who like initiated our Love a Park Day years ago, Treasurer DeShane, and so we want to keep that effort moving forward. And so with COVID and everyone's schedule's a little different, we're not going to focus on one day. We're actually opening it up for the entire month. We're going to have Love a Park Month and put out a list of activities and different parks and different activities. People can just sign up to do that. We'll provide all the supplies and they need to take pictures and send it to us. And so that's a way that we're going to get as many of our parks and land preserves handled this year in the safest way possible with maybe family groups. And we have our tool trailer that we end up receiving a grant from the Capital Region Community Foundation, so we can load that up, drop it off at a site, and everyone can do whatever they need to do, church groups or businesses or Kiwanis, Rotary, those types of organizations. And then, and then we'll be able to tell a great story when it's all over. So we will have information coming out on that very soon, but basically the whole month of May will be Love a Park Month.
As a follow-up, is it still true that our parks and our paths are getting record amounts of use by our residents as a way of coping with the pandemic, that we have more and more of our residents out in our parks and using our pathways?
You know, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we do not have counters at each of our parks, but you can drive by, you can see the parking lots are filled. We know the trash that we take out of those parks much more than we've ever had before. We used to pick up trash maybe twice a week, and now it's every day of the week is trash day for us. So we know they're getting a lot of use, and which is wonderful. People have discovered and or rediscovered our parks, our land preserves, our pathways. You can't go for a walk and not see people walking their dog, even on our bicycle pedestrian pathways in neighborhoods. And so we just have a real active community, and it's really, you know, it's pretty awesome.
Well, hopefully that kind of usage will continue, because we do have wonderful assets thanks to our staff at your department, Ms. Whistler. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we need a vote. Unless somebody else has a kind of comment, we need to vote on these there's one resolution for these 2 days.
Treasurer DeShane.
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Supervisor Stanka.
Yes.
Trustee Wozinski.
Yes.
Trustee Sunland.
Yes.
Trustee Opsimer.
Yes.
And Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll all be out there doing good things on both Earth Day and Arbor Day. Which all of this, including the discussion we had a minute ago with regard to parks, et cetera, reminds me, and I know that this is something dear to the hearts of several members of this board, especially Trustee Opsimer has brought it up a number of times. Trees, we need to go back and revisit our tree ordinances, and let's all try to keep that on our radar. Thank you. Next, we come to our resolution and celebration, excuse me, our first quarter budget amendments. And maybe we could first hear from Miriam Madison.
Yes, good evening, board. I have the first quarter budget amendments. So in front of you, I have the projected fund balance starting out with $10,263,785. But I want to caution you that that is an unaudited fund balance dollar amount. We just started the audit on Monday, so that is obviously subject to change as we go through the audit. The original budgeted use of the 2021 fund balance was $967,875. And tonight we're asking for the first quarter budget amendments for the use of $391,310. So that gives us a projected fund use of $1,359,185. And it would still leave us a fund balance of $8,904,600.
Before we get into the details, then, can we have a motion? And then we'll go back to Miriam for the details. Ms. Jackson,
I move to approve the first quarter 2021 budget amendments with a decrease in budgeted fund balance for the general fund in the amount of $391,310, which projects a use of fund balance of $1,359,185. Based on 2020 results, the projected fund balance at December 31, 2021 will be $8,904,600.
that was moved by Jackson and it's supported by, I see Ms. Sutherland's hand. Okay, supported by Ms. Sutherland. All righty, now, do you want to speak first, Ms. Jackson, or should we have Miriam give us some detail?
I would defer to Ms. Director Madison.
Thank you.
Okay.
Director Madison.
So for the general fund, we're recommending an increase of $12,000 in revenue for the elections. That was an unbudgeted election that we weren't made aware of, but that will offset the expenditures for the May election. So we will get reimbursed for this May election. So we're asking for 12, but we're asking to use that fund balance. A couple of the big items are, an unbudgeted item is the COVID supplies. So that would be any PPE or anything that the township is using for COVID supply. Again, that was not budgeted for in the 2021. We have several carryover items, which these are budgeted items from 2021 that had not been completed for that by the end of 2020. So the money was budgeted. It's just we need to bring that dollar amount forward into the 2021 use of those. And those items would be our IT help desk, our Prime Meridian magazine, our HVAC system. The other item would be our watershed management for our drains. And we've received that bill, and you can see the detail that there were several items that were lower than what was budgeted and one item that was a little slightly higher, but in all, we were giving money back into the general fund for those drains. So that gives us the total expenditures of $403,310, but asking for the use of $391,310 with those offsets. And that's for the general fund. So the park millage, that's also a carryover from projects from the Harris Nature Center, the restrooms pavilion, and the Central Meridian Trails projects. The cable TV fund is asking for some money to use for the Cam TV encoder that has stopped working. And so it's an emergency use that we need to get that up and running. And then another carryover from our turf fund is the Lake Lansing harvesting. So again, we had a purchase order that we just needed to move forward into this year. And the last one is for the revolving energy fund. It was Eco Works Energy Monitoring for $7,500. Oh, sorry. And then the motor pool, we have a carryover for our police car uplifts. So when we get police cars, we have to do modifications to them, and the vendor was not able to get to all of those last year. So we need to bring that one forward. And same thing with the dump truck body. We are waiting for that to come in. So that's the detail of what we're asking for. Any questions?
Ms. Jackson, you're first. Any questions?
Just one. So the expenditures for PPE is refundable? Will be refunded to the township?
No.
No? Okay. I have no other questions.
I thought like you that maybe we'd have some federal dollars coming in there.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I guess not.
We'll have to give it to ourselves.
Ms. Guthrie.
this may be a Deputy Perry question. What is Lake Lansing harvesting and Echo Works energy monitoring? What is that?
So the Lake Lansing harvesting, that's actually a program. So the Lake Lansing area, they have their own special assessment district that funds, it collects about $80,000 a year. And they have their Lake Lansing Advisory Board, which you just did the reappointments tonight. So that board helps guide the different programs in there. And one of the biggest programs is removing aquatic vegetation from the lake. And that's actually what that is. So when they talk about harvesting, they're actually mechanically removing the vegetation in the lake. And then periodically they'll do chemical treatments too. So that's what that program is. And then the EcoWorks is related to, that comes out of the Revolving Energy Fund. And that was established maybe a decade ago, where when we do energy improvements in the township, those savings that we realize, those dollars get put into this this Revolving Energy Fund. And there's about $60,000 in there. And it's to be used for other energy saving type projects. And in the sustainability plan that the township adopted, the board wants to have some metrics on doing some of that. So EcoWorks is actually a company that'll go in and analyze our utility bills to see where we could have some savings or improvements, changing rates, things of that nature. So we're going to be contracting with them. And we didn't have anything budgeted this year in that revolving fund. So in order to spend those dollars, we needed to get this amendment approved tonight. So that's the purpose of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Perry. Other board members? Questions or any comments? Okay. I guess we're ready for a vote then. Oh, wait, yes, Trustee Opsmer.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yes, just a quick question for Director Madison. Do we know what the fund balance currently is for Meridian Cares?
I can look that up and get back with you on that. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I can look that up and get back with you.
Okay, excellent. I'm just curious after I think we had 28,000 in there
Yeah,
before the board made the 100,000 appropriation.
It's got some good fund balance. We've been receiving some donations, and we've also received quite a bit on utility customers that have donated when they're making their payments. So I think I'm not concerned that the fund balance is getting low and we need to look at putting more. I think it's got to have healthy balance in it.
Anecdotally,
I figured as much. I was just curious.
Yeah, anecdotally, I asked one of the commissioners about that about a week ago, and I was told that it's in pretty good shape, that we really don't need to be looking right now to find a way to add anything to it. Which is why what I suspect you were wondering.
Yeah, it's mostly perspective of how quickly we're spending down and what that looks like in terms of our spend down rate and how much need is out there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's being balanced a lot by new income coming in, so they're doing pretty good. Okay, anyone else? And we're ready to vote?
Supervisor Stika?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Opsmer?
Yes.
Trustee Sunland?
Yes.
Trustee Wazinski?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, our next item, not to be outshined by our wonderful state legislator. We have our own little resolution to thank and appreciate the Deer Management Program, and that resolution is item number D under 12. And ask for someone to read the motion, please. Trustee Wazinski.
I move to approve the attached resolution of the appreciation to Michigan Sportsmen Against Hunger for their generous support of the Meridian Township Deer Management Program since 2011, and extend the additional appreciation to all 75 volunteer hunters for their efforts in conducting a safe and successful 2020 deer management season.
Supported by trustee Jackson. All right. Any comments, Ms. Wozinski?
Just echo some of the comments earlier that that I really appreciate our Parks and Rec, especially Jane and Emma, for this is now a statewide, if not more than that, renowned program. Done a fantastic job of making sure it's safe and expanding as we've asked exponentially over time. But also that it is really important that we do manage the deer population in many ways. It's healthier for people and safer for people, but it's also healthier for that population itself. When we get overpopulation, we get sick deer, we get starving deer. To be able to call those deer and give them to people in need for food is just, I'm really proud to be a part of that. And I'm very, just really appreciative that this program's going so well. So thank you.
Yeah, one thing that we didn't mention this evening too is deer ticks. I have a family member with Lyme disease, so it's very important also from the point of view of managing the deer in that regard too. The more proximate they are to us, the more likely we are to have a tick on us that could give us Lyme disease. All right, we're now ready to move on to our discussion item, which is citizens' climate commitment. And Manager Walsh wants to talk first.
I'm sorry, did you
Oh,
vote
we
on-
can do a vote. You're right. Absolutely. Thank you, Manager Walsh, for that. Trustee Opsimer, you were going to call on me to.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we didn't take that roll call.
Thank you, both of you. All righty, we need that vote, Ms. Guthrie.
All right, trustee Opsiman,
Yes.
trustee Sullivan,
Yes.
trustee Wazinski,
Yes.
trustee Jackson,
Yes.
treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes, supervisor Stika.
I vote yes.
Motion
Thank you.
carries 7-0.
Thank you all for your patience with me jumping ahead. Okay, so now we get to the citizens' climate commitment. And who would like to introduce this to us, this discussion item? Leroy here?
Well, this is Derek. Actually, I'm going to defer to the Environmental Commission Chair, John Sarver.
Okay.
This is an initiative, and Trustee Wazinski can speak to it too. There's an initiative that came out of the Environmental Commission, so I'll defer to them.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Sarver then. I see he's on my screen, but he's muted. There you go.
I'm here. Yeah, John Sarver at 2218 Bircham Drive and chair of the Environmental Commission. And the energy team has developed this Citizens Climate Commitment Initiative, and then it was reviewed and edited by the Environmental Commission. The basic idea is that our electric grid is moving toward an increasing amount of renewable energy, solar and wind power. And right now in the state of Michigan, we're at about 10 to 15% renewable energy. Consumers' energy plans to be at 40% by 2035. And so focus now is going toward what are we going to do with buildings and transportation? And, you know, a strategy that's being talked about all over the country is electrify as much as you can, whether it's furnaces, vehicles, lawnmowers, stoves. And so the idea behind the Citizens Climate Commitment is an educational effort to get people to think about their purchases of this type of equipment. We're not asking our citizens to make a pledge because, you know, there's a number of pros and cons with any sort of purchasing decision. What we're asking in this is for our citizens to consider electric alternatives and to do some pre-planning because especially with respect to furnaces and hot water heaters, most of them are replaced when they fail. And that's not the time when people want to do a lot of research. You know, they want their heat back on and they want their hot water. as soon as possible. And so, like I said, this is basically an educational effort in order to get people to start thinking about the fact that we have to start moving away from natural gas and gasoline also, and that citizens can make a contribution to that effort. I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
You're muted, Supervisor.
Thank you. Boy, this is a rough night for me. Thank you for that, and we'll keep you there in case there are questions. And I would call on Trustee Wazinski next if she wants to make any comments from the Environmental Commission point of view as well.
Thank you, Supervisor. I think Chair Sarver did a fantastic job. You know, and it is, like you said, to get your mind thinking. And I'd asked him a question earlier. One question I've always had, and a long time environmentalist, is how is electric better than natural gas, and the fact that they use coal and natural gas to produce electricity. But the point is that we're moving more and more in Michigan, and specifically here in Meridian Township, to a more sustainable and renewable energy source. So Chair Sarver had mentioned that many of our electric vehicle recharging stations are 100% solar at this point. So it really is much more efficient and can be very a cost benefit to the consumer as well, moving towards electric. So just getting our minds thinking, and like you said, Chair Sarver, as you know, our furnaces start going out, or as we need to replace our stoves, that's when it makes a difference, and that's when people can actually really truly take those things into consideration. So I thank the Environmental Commission. I thank the Energy team for bringing this to our attention.
Okay, other board members, yes, Trustee Jackson.
Yes, I find this a very interesting mechanism, educating the public and having them to think more about changes in the way we do things. I would only ask if what you are looking for in this action tonight is for the board to adopt this commitment as an commission initiated offering to our public. Do you need our permission to provide that or offer that to the public? Are you looking for some kind of adoption by this board or support or endorsement of your citizen climate commitment?
Well, I do think that would be very helpful because it basically kind of sends to the residents of the township that the township board, our elected officials, have kind of considered this and think it's a worthy endeavor. So I think, I'm not sure exactly the best way to do that, but some sort of endorsement I think could be very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Trustee Opser.
Yes, I would move to suspend our rules and take up support of this evening.
Support.
Supported by Wazinski. All those in favor of suspending the rules to take this up as an action item, put your hand in front of your face. I think we can do that. I don't see anybody not putting their hand up, so we will do that. Thank you. Mr. Osmer.
I would move to endorse and support the citizen climate commitment as recommended by the Meridian Township Environmental Commission.
In the third paragraph of our cover memo, it talks about us actually creating a web page where people could actually sign up voluntarily to do this. Is that part of your motion?
Yes, I mean, I'm moving, well, in the memo, it's referred to as the Citizens Climate Commitment. Yeah, that's the heading of the document that has been prepared for us to endorse and sign off on. So yes, I'm moving that the Township Board support and adopt and adopt the My Citizens Climate Commitment.
Including our Department of Works creating that webpage.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Jackson.
I would second that motion.
All right. Discussion, Mr. Osmer.
I appreciate Mr. Sarver and the Environmental Commission and staff for bringing this to us, and also our Citizens Climate team who have done so much work in the community to examine these issues. This is a very interesting thought when we look at just how many devices in our homes and how many appliances that we have that will have to be converted over the next 10 to 15 years as we look at the elimination or prospective elimination of natural gas as we can convert to true clean renewable energy, even down to our yard equipment, as is detailed in the commitment pledge that's prepared in front of us. So I appreciate the thought that's gone into this. I also like that geothermal systems from a residential standpoint are listed. In time, I do think those are going to be more affordable, and we will see a rise in residential geothermal systems as well. So I appreciate the foresight and the thought that was put into this, and I wholeheartedly endorse Deputy Manager Perry and staff and Mr. Leroy preparing the website to help promote this, and I'm certain that Ms. Yates and Home TV will do some good work on this as well. So thank you.
Other board members? Ms. Jackson?
I would only add that I look forward to seeing the results of this effort on our website and the benefits offered to our citizenry for making this change and considering this change in the way they live their lives every day.
This is sort of the other hand. We, as a board, a number of years ago adopted the climate sustainability plan and have been working in the direction of that as a township in terms of township buildings and our sources of energy for township buildings, et cetera. And this is the other part. This is the citizens out there doing their part. Mr. Deshane, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think this is a good document, some great recommendations, including very pragmatic ones. Many people are looking at replacing their lawnmower this spring, and it gives you a breakdown of the cost of a gas versus electric lawnmower. I think it's interesting to note this came from our Citizens Environmental Commission. Our citizens are very engaged in these issues. They're very knowledgeable of these issues, and our Environmental Commission, it represents that. So we have, in this case, something to learn from our citizens. And so I'm confident we'll get good response to this because these are issues that our residents are already living and breathing and making decisions about every day.
Okay, Ms. Guthrie.
Just a point of clarification in the motion. It wouldn't be the Public Works Department that creates the webpage. It would be the Public Works Department working with the Communications Department to create it. Is that, and I don't see the Public Works Department creating a webpage.
Well, okay.
True, that was my discussion.
Yeah, the memo says that the environmental program within the Department of Public Works would create a webpage. Who physically creates it, I guess, is a matter of administration, and obviously it's going to end up being the communications people. But there would be, the impetus would come out of there from this motion. Anyone else? I think this is a good idea. I guess we'll vote on it then.
Okay, Supervisor Stika?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer Deshane?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Opsimer?
Yes.
Trustee Sundlin?
Yes.
And Trustee Wazinski?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Sarver, and thanks to the Environmental Commission and the citizens involved and all the hard work you guys put in all the time. We truly appreciate it. Thank you. All righty, we're then ready to move on to comments from the public again. Mr. Geebies, do we have any public that wants to comment?
We have 3 people in the attendee area who, of course, can use the raise hand feature if they'd like to make a public comment at this time. Or for those participating via home TV, 517-349-1232. And we'll pause for just a moment to allow people to dial in, but I'm seeing no raised hands at this time, sir.
Okay, while we're paused, I remind people if they do decide they want to comment, we're limited to 3 minutes. And I'm not seeing any raised hands or anything.
And we have no telephone calls, sir.
All righty, thank you. Then we'll move on to other matters from the board. Final comments. Treasurer DeShane.
As a follow-up to Trustee Opsimer's question about Meridian Cares, could I suggest that we invite Suzanne Browse and Darla Jackson and other members of the CRC to maybe make a presentation at a meeting sometime in sometime in May, to give us an update on what they've experienced the past year, how they've been helping the community, where their funding's at, fundraising and so forth. Meridian Cares is obviously a very important department within the township, and a lot of good work goes into that. And so let's give them a chance to tell us what they've been doing.
Okay, good idea. Ms. Madison, Director.
All right, I just wanted to touch base. So the fund balance right now in the Community Needs Fund or the Meridian Cares is 187,000. So it's got a healthy balance.
Yeah, that's what I was told. Other board members? Yes, clerk.
Okay, I can't let the meeting go without giving a big shout out to Luann and Jane and Emma and Ken for the deer management. I mean, Luann, did you ever think when you started, I remember when it started, did you ever think it would be so big like this and continue for so long? I can't imagine the massive organizational effort and safety precautions that you and your team and Chief Plaga and his team take to making this happen and getting all that meat donated safely to people in need. And so I just want to give you and everyone else a big shout out for that. It's awesome.
Trustee Jackson.
I'd add an amen to Clerk Guthrie's comments. I have been looking for an opportunity to add my congratulations to what appears to be and what serves as a well-planned, well-organized, and very productive program. And thank you.
Okay. Final comments from other board members? Anything from the manager? Doesn't look like it. Maybe. Yes, no?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we're ready for, oh, Miss Maisner, you have a comment.
I was trying to unmute there and I actually left the screen somehow, but I just did want to respond with a thank you very much for the kind words, but it's totally a team effort by my staff and bringing DPW and police department and our community together. It's quite an operation, that's for sure. It takes about 8 months out of the year total now that we've added the extended hunt. So, and it's not, it doesn't go without any hiccups, but we move forward and I think for the most part, it's been very successful and we appreciate the accolades. Thank you.
And accolades to Chief Plaga and his team also for helping out this year. And they've had to deal with some tangential issues as well, which they've handled extremely well. We appreciate that too. Okay. And we're ready for a motion to adjourn. Trustee Wazinski.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. Trustee Jackson.
Support.
All right. Any objection? Then we're going to adjourn. Thank you all.
Have a good night, sir.